Jason and Devin McCourty. Jason
There you go.
and Devin McCourty.
Yep.
All right, great, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. My name is David Wall-Rice. I'm a professor of psychology at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. We've been doing work with the NFL around issues of social justice and social impact really since Cap took a knee. They began to have a lot of conversations on campus, and that's evolved into a partnership and relationship with the Players Coalition. And so I'm here just to have a conversation. I'm also over an institute at the college called the Institute for Social Justice, Inquiry, and Praxis. And basically we just want to know how it is that these theories that we talk about so often, how do they make sense in real life? And so we can start by, I know that you all are highly active in community and doing community works, but there's so many different ways to define social justice and social impact. Can you just give us your definition of what social justice means to you all?
I think, like you just said, there's so many ways to define it, and I know for me, the biggest thing that I've been on is education and economic advancement of minorities and communities, and that's one, trying to educate, individuals when they're young and being able to build them up the right way, giving them the right education, not just a education, giving them a fair education to their peers who are in more affluent areas. And then I think with that education now we give them an opportunity for economic advancement to pass that on from generations. I think too often we talk about different minority families and different, like you start in poverty and one person, two people, three have to bring and then reach back out and bring everybody. Like what if we started, some of these families off on just a more level playing ground and everything didn't have to be so hard just to make ends meet. So that's been exciting for us to just be a part of. We've been in, like you just said, we've been into so many different things. We got an education bill. We was a part of getting that passed in Boston, in the state of Massachusetts, actually. So just doing so many of those different things.
Tell us a little bit about that, because this is, from what I recall, it was a bill that just gives a lot more money. So can you, I don't want to mess it up.
It was exciting because myself and Matthew Slater wrote an op-ed 2 years ago as they were going into recess and trying to get it done right before. We wrote an op-ed, talking about the importance of education, how it helps kids and gives them opportunity. Nothing happened. Okay. So these recommendations came out in 2015. And then we were in 2019 now, and nothing happened. And these recommendations was to get $1.1 billion into the school system to help areas that need it. Okay. It wasn't to help everyone, but there were areas that they identified just didn't have the money, the resources to give these kids an equal education. Like there were, in some areas like Brockton, there were schools that didn't have a full-time science teacher, didn't have a full-time PE teacher. Wow. So these schools get a lot of bad press and, they don't know what they're doing. And these teachers are like, I spend out of my own money to get certain resources. So with the Equal Education, Equal Opportunity Act that was passed, it gave the whole $1.1 billion. Still trying to figure out how that money is actually now being produced and given to these school districts. So it was exciting to be a part of. I mean, we testified at the State House. You talk about nerve-wracking. People were like, but you just played in the Super Bowl. We were like, yeah, that's easy for us. We're sitting here in front of 300, 400 people testifying of what we think is right. But when we did it, we walked away so inspired and motivated, knowing that we were involved in something that we truly believed in.
So what gives you the courage and the motivation to do that, to step outside of your comfort zone and to do the work? Because it seems, and I know, I'm just talking black man to black men here, right? I think there are so many common narratives of us that, that other us, right? So, you're athletes. So as the result of that, you have to be tabula rasa and not think of anything else except going to the gym or whatnot. But can you just give us a little bit of texture around Why would you do this? Who's pouring into you? What did your family look like? Any of those kinds of things?
I think it's a multitude of reasons. I think one of it is the people that have come before you. I think, like you just said, when Cap took a knee, that was huge. And there were so many guys that was just like, wow. Like, then you start to look into, well, why did he take a knee? And then you start to see the reasons, and you're looking at the things that are going on in our country, and it's just like, well, I need to do something. Like, why wouldn't I? I'm here. I have the platform. My platform may not be as big as Colin Kaepernick's, but my platform's a lot bigger than a lot of other people that look like me. So I think that inspired a lot of people. When you talk about the Malcolm X's, the Martin Luther Kings, the Rosa Parks, people that have come before you, that have laid the groundwork, that have allowed you to do some of the things you've been able to do. Jackie Robinson, guys within the sports realm, but just people in general in our society. And then I think another side of it is we're both fathers. And I think when you think about it from that nature, my daughter is 7. She's in first grade. And about a week ago, she went to the library with my wife, and she's looking for a book. You know, my wife's like, she looks like she's searching specifically for something. Like, what are you looking for? I'm just looking. And then next thing you know, she's like, I'm trying to find a book. And she kind of whispered on Martin Luther King.
Wow.
And it was just like, well, why are you whispering? Like, let's go ask the lady. So then she comes home with 2 books, and now I have a 4-year-old son too, and she's learning a little bit about it in school. Then she comes home, and we'll have conversations, and so now we're reading a book, and we'll get to a page, and I'll be like, to my 4-year-old now, which one's Rosa Parks? And he points to the picture of Rosa Parks because his 7-year-old sister taught him who Rosa Parks was. He answers, who is she? Why did she get arrested? Because she didn't want to move to the back of the bus. And for me, like, I've been blown away to watch them and to see what they're able to learn. And then for my daughter to see what interest she has of starting to realize, because me and my wife talked about it, was just like, we don't want to start to talk race to her until she starts to notice it. Because kids are innocent, and they have a level of pureness about them that they'll go play with a white friend, a black friend, an Asian friend. They don't care. It's just, hey, he has the cool dinosaur that I want to play with, so I'm playing with him. So now my daughter's just looking around, and it's just like, she's watching Power Rangers, and the yellow Power Ranger is an African-American female who has long braids, and she goes, I want to be the yellow Power Ranger because she looks like me. And I'm just like, dang, that's just so cool. So I think from that perspective, you want to be able to do something because you have an opportunity to say, like, hey, while I had this platform and there were some struggles and there were some issues in my society, I tried to do something about them, because one day your kids are going to grow up, and my daughter's going to look and she's going to ask me about Colin Kaepernick, and she's going to say, well, did you do anything to help out?
That's real.
So I feel like you don't want to be the dad that is just like, well, nah, because I was making a good amount of money for you guys, I really didn't want to spoil any of that. We have an opportunity in so many different ways to make an impact in our society that you just can't pass up on it.
That's wonderful. And I think it's so important to look at a couple of things. Agency, this idea that you could choose not to do anything, but you're motivated to do something. And I dare say, I have 2 young kids too. I have a 4-year-old son and a 12-year-old son. And that's where there's hope. And if we're trying to find kind of this common denominator, where it is that we can all agree and lean into something, no matter where it is we come from, it can kind of be, where is there hope? Well, there's hope in young folks. There's hope in the future. So the work that you all are doing around education and stuff like that is so admirable, and we really appreciate it. I know they I thought somebody was signaling me to end. Oh, we can keep going? That's what I'm talking about. All right. So can you talk about, what about, and I know you had talked about Jackie Robinson, Martin King Jr., we talked about Rosa Parks. Who are some, Kaepernick, who are some other folks that you point to and appreciate in terms of being role models for you and that you're encouraged to ascribe to and read about and look at?
You know, one person who I thought was very interesting, I didn't know a ton about it. I knew he was really good at basketball, was Bill Russell. Bill Russell's before my time when he played, but then I got drafted to the New England Patriots, and, you know, I go to the Celtics games, and I'm like, man, Bill Russell, you know, Archibald, Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, like those guys, like John Havlicek, like that's the Celtics, like everyone. And then I remember they built a statue in Boston for him, built a statue of him. And they were like, yeah, it's the first time he'll be back in like 40-something years. And I was like, huh?
Wow.
I'm like, what do you mean? Bill Russell's a legend out here. Like, they love sports out here. So I started just Googling, researching it, and looking. And he talked about his time in Boston was some of the worst times of his life.
Yeah.
The way he was treated, the racism, and he openly talked about how he didn't like being there.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. Like, this guy played for a city, a state, and he was very open and honest about it. And I felt like as a player in that area, like, those are things that guys did things like that before you that you have to push the envelope. Mm-hmm. So for us as players, we don't have to go through those things because Bill Russell did go through those things.
Good point.
But I think in the same, like you say that in the same breath, when you look, the disparities in education in Massachusetts are the biggest in our country because Massachusetts has some of the best education in America. You're talking about Harvard, like you have Boston University, you have some really good schools, but within there in the high school level, as you have these really good high schools, you have some high schools that are really bad.
Yeah.
And I think
and have been for some time.
And we had the opportunity to get involved with that and have a chance to change that.
Yeah.
And guys like Bill Russell, obviously guys like Muhammad Ali, who decided to give up a belt rather than do something that he felt they were telling him he had to do, are guys that I think constantly inspire you. And I think as you get older, you learn about guys from a school level, but then you start to do your own research. You start looking up articles where they have different quotes and they spoke about things. So that's inspired me to just learn and to go out there and research on my own some of these different individuals.
Yeah, that's please.
And I would say just from a personal standpoint, our mother has been a huge inspiration to us. Our father passed away when we were young, 3 years old, from a asthma attack that led to a heart attack. But being able to talk to my mom where, like he's just saying, anything that came up where you could go have a conversation with her and things that you weren't able to experience, you don't know about, but being able to talk to somebody that's older than you and wiser than you and being able to explain times or for her to talk about what it was like when she was growing up or whatever the nature of the conversation was, she was just a huge inspiration for me and I think for Dev as well to really follow and chase after whatever it was that we believed in, of just instilling that confidence in us and building us up, of knowing. I remember being a young kid and somebody calling us a monkey on the basketball court and to the point where we were about to fight the kids and then going home with my mom having a conversation of her getting us to understand that there's going to be times in your life where you're going to come across people that don't like you, that don't know you just because of what you look like, and teaching us how to handle those situations, and the real way of getting back is within your success and how you handle yourself. So I think for us, she was a huge inspiration because she molded us into the men that we are today and have enabled us to not only be professional football players, but to be good husbands, to be good fathers, and to care about our community and want to give back and do things within it.
Yeah, y'all are some good people, man. That's positive. I mean, no, I'm serious. And I think it's important to say those kinds of things because so often there are these narratives that you all are empty vessels and all this kind of stuff. And to hear you talk about education, not just in a straight ahead way, but in a nuanced and complicated way is so important. You're talking about how it is that you're teaching your daughter, how you're learning things, how you're talking to your mother, and you see that it's a generational lineage that's really passed on. So I appreciate you guys spending time with us and really giving us a textured understanding of what real education is. So often people think it has to be this formalized exercise, but it's really about looking for knowledge, putting it on and exercising it. So thank you all so much for being here and for sharing time with us and continued good works.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.